He never expected his life to change because of a single message, yet that is exactly how it began. The message came on an ordinary evening when he was returning from work, tired and ready to collapse on the old chair in his small apartment. It was a notification on his wrist screen, glowing brighter than usual. At first, he thought it was a scam or some random mistake, but the text was too strange to ignore. It said that he had been selected for a peaceful cultural exchange program with a distant world. He laughed at the idea and placed the device aside, thinking that someone was playing a joke. Minutes later, another message arrived, but this time the sender identified herself as an ambassador from another planet. She introduced herself with a simple human-friendly name, Lyra, and she wrote with surprising politeness. She said that an agreement between worlds had opened new paths for friendship and understanding, and that he had been chosen because he matched all the conditions for stability, empathy, and adaptability. He still did not believe it, but the message had a strange warmth to it, as if it had been written by someone who truly wished to talk. When he replied out of curiosity, her responses came instantly. She spoke about her world, her customs, and her people who valued harmony and learning. She sounded genuine, and a part of him felt drawn to her straightforward, honest tone. For weeks they exchanged messages and small recordings. The more he learned, the more real it all seemed. Still, he could not fully accept it until the night the sky above his city lit up with a gentle blue shimmer. People around him panicked at first, but no harm came. A calm voice streamed from every nearby speaker, introducing the arrival of an interworld envoy. When he walked outside, he saw a small silver vessel descend with the grace of a falling leaf. From that vessel stepped Lyra Dot. She did not look like any creature from old science fiction stories. Her form was similar to a human, though taller and with a soft textured layer along her skin that looked like a naturally woven pattern. Her eyes were large and clear, showing recognition the moment they met his. She greeted him by name, and in that instant, the strange new world he had been learning about suddenly felt close enough to touch. She thanked him for speaking with her for so long, and asked if he would join her aboard the vessel for a short visit. His heart raced with fear and excitement, yet he sensed no danger. People around them took pictures and whispered, but Lyra waited patiently until he finally nodded. The inside of the vessel was warm and bright. Everything seemed crafted with gentle curves, no sharp angles, as if the entire ship had been shaped with kindness in mind. Lyra gave him a tour and explained how her people traveled through space, not to conquer, but to share their ideas and welcome new cultures. They believed that every species added something valuable to the universe. She also explained that she had been chosen to communicate with him because she admired the way he listened and asked thoughtful questions. During that first visit, she never pushed him to go anywhere far. She simply wanted him to understand who she was and what her mission meant. When he returned home later that night, he could hardly sleep. He kept thinking about her peaceful presence and the sincerity in her voice. Soon more meetings followed. Sometimes she visited his city in the small vessel, and sometimes he visited her ship while it orbited calmly above the planet. Word spread across the world, and although many people remained cautious, the majority soon realized that Lyra and her team brought no threat. Weeks turned into months. He found himself looking forward to every conversation with her. She was curious about everything on Earth. She asked about fruits, music, work life, and family bonds. She laughed in her own gentle way when he tried to teach her small jokes. Over time, they learned to understand each other's gestures and small habits. She grew fond of human tea, and he grew fond of the way she described her world's gardens that glowed under pale moons. One day she invited him to visit her home planet. She said that her people wished to meet him, and that the exchange project would benefit from his presence. He hesitated because traveling that far felt overwhelming, yet the trust he had built with her outweighed his fear. After a long night of thinking, he agreed. The journey across space was unlike anything he imagined. He saw stars pass like drifting lanterns and watched colors ripple across the windows in beautiful patterns. Lyra stayed beside him the whole way, explaining what each shimmer meant and checking if he felt comfortable. The ship moved softly, like it floated on a silent wind. When they finally arrived, he stared in amazement. The planet below them was covered with bright plains, tall crystal-like trees, and enormous lakes that reflected the sky like mirrors. When they landed, he expected a huge crowd, but only a welcoming group stood waiting. They wore soft robes, and their eyes held the same clear glow as Lyra's. They bowed politely and introduced themselves. The place had an atmosphere of deep calm. Even the air seemed gentle. They treated him not as an outsider, but as an honored guest. Lyra guided him through beautiful corridors carved from natural stone. She showed him classrooms where young learners studied the languages of other worlds, and gardens where shimmering plants grew in spirals. Everywhere he went, people greeted him with respect. Day after day, he explored more of their world, and with every step his bond with Lyra grew stronger. She walked beside him during every visit and translated anything he did not understand. They shared meals, stories, and discoveries. She showed him her childhood home and the river where her family used to gather. The more he listened, the more he understood the depth of her culture and the values that shaped her. She, in turn, learned more about Earth and its struggles, triumphs, and complexities. She admired the resilience humans carried. During a quiet evening by the glowing river, Lyra finally said something that changed the direction of his entire life. She looked at him with a calm yet hopeful expression and told him that her family wished for them to stay together. She said they admired the way he treated her with patience and respect. She explained that relationships in her world were built through understanding, support, and shared journeys, and her family believed their bond carried all these qualities. She said that her family would like them to join their lives in a meaningful union. He froze for a moment, unable to respond. He cared deeply for her, but the idea of being part of her world felt enormous. He asked if she was speaking for herself or simply passing on her family's wishes. She smiled softly and said that she also wished for them to stay together, that the connection they shared was rare and valuable in her eyes. She said she did not want him to feel pressured, yet she hoped he would consider the path that waited ahead. He spent several days thinking about it. He walked through the quiet fields, watched the luminous plants sway in the wind, and spoke with the wise elders who explained their customs. Everyone he met treated him kindly and gave him space to think. Lyra never pushed, though he could see hope in her gaze whenever they crossed paths. He realized that he felt more at peace in her presence than anywhere else he had ever been. He realized that the bond they had formed was something he never expected to experience in his life. Finally, one morning he told her that he wished to join their lives together. Her eyes brightened with joy, and she thanked him with both hands, placed gently over her heart. The news spread quickly among her family, who celebrated with warm songs and colorful lights. They prepared a ceremony unlike anything he had ever seen. It was simple, yet filled with meaning. Instead of grand decorations, the place was surrounded by living plants that reacted to emotions, blooming softly when touched by happiness. A circle of family members stood around them, offering blessings and quiet smiles. During the ceremony, Lyra spoke words of promise in her language, then repeated them in his. He did the same, speaking from his heart. Their hands were joined with a strand of woven light, a symbol of unity in her culture. As the strand shimmered between them, the plants around the circle burst into gentle color, celebrating the moment with natural beauty. There was no loud music, only the sound of calm winds and soft voices singing in the background. When the ceremony ended, her family embraced both of them and welcomed him fully into their lives. He never expected that he would one day call another world home. Yet that is exactly what happened. He moved into a peaceful house near the glowing river, where gentle lights shimmered against the water every evening. Lyra taught him the customs of her people and helped him learn the language at his own pace. He shared Earth traditions in return, teaching her simple meals, small dances, and warm stories from his childhood. They spent mornings walking through the gardens and evenings stargazing, talking about the future they would build together. Over time, he became part of a larger project focused on connecting Earth and her world with calm and respect. He spoke at cultural gatherings, sharing his experiences and encouraging both worlds to learn from each other. He discovered that humanity had far more to offer than raw strength. Humans carried creativity, courage, humor, music, and a spirit that refused to give up, even in the face of the unknown. Her people admired this deeply. They believed that humans brought a unique spark that the universe needed. Through this partnership, the two worlds grew closer. Trade, knowledge, art, and science began to flow between.